remind us when he comes.
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate our lives more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Let's pray together. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
friend, beloved God,
friend, beloved God,
great masters of self-realization,
great masters of self-realization,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
we humbly bow before thee,
we humbly bow before
and
thee,
invoke your blessing.
and invoke your blessings.
Guide our hearts,
Guide our hearts,
guide our ambitions,
guide our ambitions,
spiritualize our thoughts,
spiritualize our
our
thoughts,
actions,
our actions,
our words,
our words,
in ever deeper attunement
in ever deeper attunement
with thy divine will.
with thy divine will.
Om. Peace. Amen. Good morning again, friends. You can have a seat. Through many lives I've drunk the cup of laughter. No man could tell the pleasures I have known. The stars in the endless sky, if one could count, would come to billions. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through many lives I've drunk the cup of sorrow. No man could tell the bitter tears I've shed. The drops in the endless sea, if one could count, would come to billions. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through countless lives I've sought your cup of sweetness, found other cups, yet thirsted evermore. The streams in the hills of time all found their way into a desert. Every noon of bright fulfillment, and many hours did sing to evening glow. Every noon of bright fulfillment, and many hours did sing to evening glow. I long
Lord, at last fill me completely, for nevermore I'd wander far from you.
As you continue to meditate, I'll read from the Quality of the Week introspection. People commonly delude themselves with easy rationalizations. Maybe I wasn't as kind as I might have been. They'll say, but wouldn't you have been unkind too if he treated you that way? It wasn't my fault. The fault was his. Thus, the blame of every wrong is placed at one's neighbor's door. Introspection means to behold oneself from the center of inner calmness, without the slightest mental bias, open to what may be wrong in oneself, not excusing it, but not condemning either. Introspection means referring what one sees to the superconscious mind and detachedly accepting guidance when it comes. Let's affirm together, repeating after me, aloud and then softer each time. I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Only by facing them can I work on them and change them.
For only by facing them can I work on them and change them.
I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change me.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
For only by facing them can I work on them and change them.
For only by facing them can I work on them and change them.
I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me.
Wishing cannot change
Let
me.
me therefore face my faults with gratitude.
Let me therefore face my faults with
For
gratitude.
only by facing them can I work on them and change them.
Only by facing them can I work on them and change them.
I am what I am.
I am what I am.
Wishing cannot change me. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. Face my faults with gratitude. Only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Now mentally repeat. I am what I am. Wishing cannot change me. Let me therefore face my faults with gratitude. For only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Only by facing them can I work on them and change them. Let me not delude myself with the desires, Lord. Teach me to see behind the play of my thoughts, the ever calm gaze of wisdom. I'd like to welcome you all to our Ananda Sunday service. My name is Ram, and Narayan called me in as a pinch hitter today. Dharmadevi is at home recuperating.
She's okay.
Yes. Anyway, I'd like to share with you all here at the Ananda Center in West Los Angeles and those who are viewing virtual reality around the world. Why do devotees fall? This is the reading from the Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita, written by Swami Kriyananda and from the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. An endlessly fascinating question is, why did Judas fall after receiving the extraordinary blessing of being accepted into the inner circle of Jesus Christ's disciples? For Judas has was one of the 12 apostles, yet he betrayed Jesus and earned himself the opprobrium of Christendom for all futurity for his sin. We find Judas reprimanding Jesus just days before that betrayal. Jesus, aware that his disciples would soon be facing with his death the supreme tragedy of their lives, allowed Mary to express her devotion by anointing his feet with costly ointment. The act of wanton waste, as Judas saw it, awakened indignation in that disciple. Quote, "Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor?" This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and he kept the purse and bare what was put in therein. Then Jesus said, "Let her alone. Against the day of my bearing hath she kept this. For the poor always you have with you, but me you have not always." Doubt not the power of delusion. Respect it indeed. Fear it, though not in the sense of cowering before it. For as Yogananda said, one is not safe until he attains nirvikalpa samadhi, the state of final union with God. Judas, through attachment to money, opened his consciousness to subtle influences which may be called satanic, that drew his thoughts toward other related attitudes. The importance of worldly power, for instance, and of worldly influences. The Bhagavad Gita gives a graphic explanation of how easily the mind can be drawn downward once it begins to feed on wrong attitudes. In the 2nd chapter, Sri Krishna states, "If one ponders on sense objects, there springs up attraction to them. From attraction grows desire. Desire, impatient for fulfillment, flames to anger. From anger, there arises infatuation, the delusion that one object alone is worth clinging to the exclusion of all others. From infatuation ensues forgetfulness of the higher self. From forgetfulness of the self follows the degeneration of the discriminative faculty, and when discrimination is lost, there follows the annihilation of one's spiritual life." At the first thought of delusion, Paramahansa Yogananda said, "That is the time to stop it." Thus, through Holy Scriptures, God has spoken through mankind.
Good morning again, friends. I'd like to start by sharing from Whispers from Eternity. These are Yogananda's prayer demands. And this one is called "Spiritualize All Our Thoughts and Ambitions." O infinite alchemist, spiritualize our weaknesses into strength and our wrong thoughts into right thoughts. Grow thou a flower of divine understanding from every seed of activity. With the magic wand of foresight given by thee, teach us to transmute the ugly imps of selfish ambition into fairies of all-serving, noble aspirations. Train, Lord, each stallion of desire to become a champion, racing for thine abode. Transform our base ignorance into the gold of wisdom, that it become a liquid stream of spiritual gold, rushing steadily to thy shore. was reminded when the cell phone went off. There was in 2005, Swami Kriyananda was giving a Mahasamadhi celebration in India. It was my first pilgrimage to India. It was an incredible blessing. And, it was a big hall. It was about 300 to maybe 500 people or something like that. And here's, Swami about to give this beautiful discourse on Yoganandaji as Guru, Mahasamadhi, very high vibration. All of a sudden, the cell phone rings right at the beginning of his talk, and it's ringing, and he's like, "Come on, can we turn the cell phone off?" And then it keeps ringing and ringing. And Swami was hard of hearing towards the end of his life. He had no hearing, and I think it was his left ear, a little bit missing. The phone is continuing, it's ringing, and then he goes, "Oh no." It was ringing during his talk. And he picked it up and hung up. I knew the person who it was that called him too. We got a chuckle out of that. But, Divine Mother has a sense of humor, and this is one of the keys to get in. She's trying to get into our heart, and that's why Ram chanted that beautiful chant today of Master's Door of My Heart, because this is the key area where we open our heart to the divine. And like we were talking before, the heart is the center of, it can be the center of love and devotion, or it can be the center of attachments and desires. Keshava recently took the yoga teacher training up at Ananda Village, and Gyandev, who some of you know, Nayaswami Gyandev, is one of the teachers of the program, and he gave them the counsel, when you're driving, don't try this discipline of not looking at any billboards. And Keshava almost got into a car accident when he came back to LA, because as we know, the billboards in LA aren't just on the street; they're on the buses. So you had to avoid every billboard. Excuse me. He would get into an accident. But I'm joking. The point I'm trying to make is, how can we spiritualize our desire? Because we can't, yoga is not about suppression, right? It's about loving persuasion. It's about taking this is why I wanted to share that whisper from eternity today. This is the great spiritual alchemy that we were talking about in the purification ceremony, that all of our clay, the mud of our delusion, all our desires, it's actually transmuted into spiritual gold. I mean, this is the incredible, beautiful thing of Kriya Yoga and meditation, that you don't suppress, that you come before God. Our friend up at Ananda Village says, sometimes I just like to, I have a cup of tea, and I have a cup of tea with Master, and you just have a cup of tea with God. And like that book we were sharing from on Friday with Aaron, Conversations with Yogananda. This is the book that Swami wrote of all these different sayings of Yogananda. But that's what it's about in our hearts. It's just conversing in our heart, because Divine Mother knows our heart. It's like if you were a child and your mother baked a nice chocolate cake with a lot of icing on it, and went and bit into the cake, and you had smeared chocolate cake all over you, and then she came and found you and said, "Did you have the chocolate cake?" And, "No." Divine Mother, she knows. She knows what's going on in our heart. So let's just be honest. That's why Swami coupled the affirmation today, introspection. Let me therefore face them and accept them, because only by facing them and accepting them can I work on them and change them. It's that you offer those meannesses of the heart, those desires, those mundane things up to God. You want to spiritualize desire, in other words. So how can we do that? Well, For one, we begin to cultivate, we want to have the desire for God. Swami Kriyananda wrote a chant that we sing sometimes, I want only thee, Lord. And our friend Asha, who's a very honest devotee, she said, well, sometimes I have a problem saying that chant because I don't want only God. There's other things in there. And Swami used to say to her, well, even if you want to want only God, we have to work with ourselves where we're at and open our hearts in a way that is realistic to where we are, and realize that all those mundane desires really are a deeper, they're a desire really for God. And if we can love the beautiful things of this world, that's why it's good to surround yourself with uplifting company, with uplifting music, the desire for beauty, the desire for kindness, these kind of desires that can float us towards that supreme desire of God alone. There was a story of Swamiji when he was in a Christmas pageant, and he was asked to play the part of Jesus Christ. And he just had to, just sort of sigh there. It was the Garden of Gethsemane scene, so he was looking a little bit forlorn or whatnot. And the word got back after to Master that, Swami had played this part, and he had, some people said that he looked so much like Jesus Christ. And Swami remarked to Master and said, I'd rather be like Jesus than look like him. And you know how Master responded? That will come. That's the important thing. That's why we have the saints as our examples, because we want to be like them. Dharmadevi is telling this story, she's going to write about it. When she was a little girl, about Ayla's age, maybe 5 or 6, and people, when you're a young child, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, I want to be a saint. And it's those desires those are the desires we want to cultivate. Out of the mouth of babes, what does it say? What did Christ say? Suffer, for come unto me, be like children, for such is the kingdom of God. You want to have that simple, childlike, loving conversation with God and Guru, and open yourself to them and be honest with them about where your challenges are, and say, all my clay into thy gold. I can't do it, but I know that you can do anything, and if I open myself to you, that your grace can flow. And this is what the Christian saints used to talk about, God's grace. And the beautiful thing now in this new age of Dwapara Yuga is the combination of our self-effort with the grace of God. This is where Kriya Yoga and the practice of meditation comes in, that we can cooperate with that flow of grace, that we can draw it more magnetically, more powerfully, more lovingly. Literally, where? That's why Yogananda said the spine and the brain are the altars of God. And you're the minister. You are the temple keeper. You have the mystic key. As Yogananda said, no one in the world can give you God. If you open yourself to him, then he can come in. One disciple said, I don't feel your presence. And he said, well, if you shut me out, how can I come in? It's that the thing is, it's painful at times, right, to open our heart, because we don't like what's in there. These are the meannesses of the heart, and they need to be expunged. They need to be expelled. Swami Master wrote a metaphysical meditation called The Searchlight of Love. And he said, the searchlight of your love, shooting out over eternity, over the universe, and it's blessing the whole universe. And the searchlight of your love must shine and expel the hearts that are filled with the darkness of hate. Meditate on that. Master said that it's we, in cooperation with divine grace, with working as cooperative instruments with Divine Mother, are trying to bring her light into this world. And we are at, what did Master say, right? Stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. Well, the world is breaking. Which way are we going to break? Let's break towards Divine Mother and call in her light ever more strongly, ever more purely. And that is why we come together in the Spirit. And this cooperation in this age are these small communities. That's why Master was so enthusiastic about World Brotherhood communities. And so was Swamiji, obviously, dedicated his life to it as well. These little small communities where we can come together in sincerity, in understanding, supporting each other, helping each other, seeing the good. Remember that story when there was a room at Mount Washington that was supposed to be painted by one of the disciples, and he hadn't even yet painted it, and Master walked in with Rajasi and said, "Oh, look, what a beautiful room, look what he did." And the Swami was there, and they said they didn't even realize that the man hadn't even painted it yet. But it takes goodness to see goodness. Look to the good in the world. It's very easy to be judgmental and critical. We have enough. We don't need to get into the news and what's going on with the world. We know what's going on with the world. So let's be part of the answer. What is the answer? It's God. It's always the answer. And let's bring God more deeply into our hearts, no matter pain, disease, whatever circles around you, that if you call to God with that sincerity of heart, He will never let you down. I'd like to close with that story. Some of you have heard it. The man that Master, I'm not sure if Master met him, but he mentions it in autobiography. That's all. Hi, Padmaji. Hi, Ramji. Hi, Arjun. Please come. In autobiography of a yogi, there was a man that Master mentioned that he had an advanced case of diabetes. And it was so advanced that the doctors gave him just like a month or so to live. And he had sores all over his body. It was so painful that he couldn't even sit for barely 5 minutes without having to move and take care of himself. But he resolved. He had such determination and resolve in his heart that he said, I'm just going to sit and call to God for 5 minutes at a time and say, Lord, come into this broken temple. Come into this broken temple. And so his prayer began to increase in its fervor. And that prayer grew from 5 minutes to 10 minutes a day, to 15 to 20, to then he was doing hours a day meditating, and just this simple prayer demand, come into this broken temple. And he just kept calling out to God. And then it became 10, 12, 18 hours a day. He was sitting, meditating. And then one day, all of a sudden, this volley of God's light and energy flooded his body. And he was healed instantaneously. And tears were streaming down his eyes. And he said, Lord, I didn't ask you to heal me. I just asked you to come into my broken temple. And he said, my child, where my light is, no darkness can dwell. So let's call out to God with that same fervor to come into our broken temple, the temple of our body, our mind, our heart, our soul, our whole being. And we too will be effulgent with that divine light and be able to share it with all the world. God bless you.